and welcome to another episode of What the Tech. I'm your host, Rolando Rosas, and today we're tackling an issue that is near and dear to my heart, and that is how to get employees to stop doing those mundane tasks and automating so that things are more efficient and that it returns a greater ROI to your business. And joining me today on this podcast, as always, riding shotgun with me, is my co-host, David Kelly. Dave, what's up, Dave?
Rolando, we are officially at the halfway point. We're a couple of days beyond the halfway point of 2021. And today we're going to be talking about really multiplicity, right? How can we take these talented people, keep them doing the things that they can do with the skills that they have while automating or making things a little bit easier to handle on the back end. So I want to take a quick dive and we're going to look at the question of the week.
All right, go for it.
All right, so Charlie from Seattle is asking, hey, I use a Bluetooth headset and a Bluetooth dongle on my laptop. So that's good. He's using the dongle instead of the Bluetooth that's built in to his laptop. So it's good. But yeah, he's expecting better wireless range. What can he do? Rolando, I know that this is a topic that we talk about a lot, right?
That's right. And go ahead, Dave.
So we'll get the answer to this question when we're wrapping it up at the end of our interview.
I'm looking forward to it. Well, thank you, Dave. Thanks for that question, Ori and Dave. And I want to let you know that today, for those that are watching us live, we're coming to you live on YouTube. We're coming to you live on Facebook. And we're also coming to you live on Instagram. So we do have some folks that are watching us live on Instagram. This is a first for us. We did a little test a little while ago, but for those that want to watch us on Instagram, you get to watch and hear all the happenings that are happening on the air. So welcome to those that are watching us on Instagram Live. Feel free to also send us your questions through the chat feature, either on any of those platforms, YouTube, Facebook, as well as Instagram, and we'll answer it through the show. And if we can't get to it, we'll have somebody on our team go ahead and respond to you anyways. We love engaging with our folks. So, and while we're at it, right, Dave, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit all the bells, the whistles, all the buttons, hit all that stuff so that you can get those special moments that we release through the week that are not part of the podcast, Dave, because we release insights and tips throughout the week as well.
Yep, absolutely. We do answer the community. We do other nuggets. You know what? What do we like to say, Rolando? We have our ear to the ground. We know what the users are asking about the technology that we sell. Save yourself some time. Come ask us these questions. And we know that you'll be pleased with what we can provide you.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave. And, on today's episode, we have a bona fide expert in the field of automation. And, a lot of folks, when they hear automation, I know for me, Dave, when I think of automation, I hear robots in my head.
Oh, of course.
Pick packing and maybe moving things, or on a factory line, doing soldering and doing all these different things. But it's way more than just the physical aspects of robots moving things or soldering or creating widgets. It's also about things in the background, like software and different pieces of platforms that come together that can talk to each other, or things that are just mundane tasks that a human probably can do, but you can have a machine do for you and on your behalf so that you can speed up the work that you're doing, be more effective, and gain a leg up on the competition. And I think that's what Will's going to help us break down today.
Yeah, that's great. I'll tell you, it's kind of a fascinating topic when you think about the back end of really any business. They're not physical, they're not necessarily physical actions that are taking people's time away from more important tasks. So I'm looking forward to this conversation with Will and data automation and automation in general.
All right. And Ori, did we have a video that we were going to roll to before bringing on Will? Oh, gotcha. So before we roll that video, let me give you a little bit of information on who Will Christensen is and what he does. Will Christensen is the co-founder and chief mess maker. I love that title, chief mess. I have to ask him about this. I didn't know he was a chief mess maker. I know he made a mess, but he's a chief mess maker. So I wonder who the junior chief mess makers are. A wholly owned nerd staffed company that uses a SaaS framework to support SaaS companies in their growth. And in addition to that, they do this by not only providing a set of tools that are awesome for your team, but that are also free for sharing. And he has a bunch of expertise in this area. I could talk about him for hours at a time because he does a lot more than what it says in his bio here. Let me bring him on so we have as much time from him as possible. Will Christensen, come on out of the green room.
How's it going, sir?
Doing well. Well. How about you?
Hey, good to see you both.
Awesome.
Good to meet Dave more formally. Good to be hanging out with Rolando again. Always excited to talk automation.
Awesome. And we've got something that we want you to react to here in a moment, but just let us know where you're tuning in from so people know where you're joining us from.
Yeah, we're based out of Athens, Georgia. The company's based out of Athens, Georgia, DataAutomation, but I'm actually in Syracuse, Utah, which is north of Salt Lake City.
There you go. Utah, beautiful. I haven't been there in forever. I can't.
It's hot as all get out right now here.
Oh my
God.
We're at 96 degrees there, just outside of the nation's capital. So it's a steamy day today.
Yeah, it's pretty hot here too.
Awesome. Okay, well, before we jump into all of the questions that I've got for you, I want to share a little video with you and get your reaction on the other side of this video. So go ahead and roll that video, Ori.
The worker, him or herself, and how they're going to be impacted for years, if not forever, as a result of this push for automation. How should we think about that tonight?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to challenge the workforce. Prior to this crisis, the US was experiencing, we were unable, the facilities that we work with were unable to hire enough workers at the facilities that they want them in, and so we're investing in automation. Obviously, that's changed now with this crisis. There's going to be a massive amount of people available, but I do believe that this automation will change the face of the employment landscape, no doubt.
All right, and so I want to get your reaction to that. It's a really wide open question because it could mean a lot of different things, but I want you to get you to react to that statement, then we can jump into some of the other topics.
Yeah, so one of the number one things that I see with people when they look at automation and they look at kind of like this idea of creating an automation culture inside their company, there's a lot of fear around, is a robot going to replace my job? Whether that robot's physical, like the one you saw in that video where we're, moving things around on conveyor belts or whatever, or whether or not that's a digital robot that's taking digital work, copy pasting, things like that away from what's there. And what I tell people is, if you can tell the difference between whether this is a good decision or a bad decision, if you can use that human intuition, if you have even an ounce of creativity in terms of like making a human decision, you have nothing to worry about. Because as we get deeper and deeper into automation, what we're doing is we're freeing up people's time to put back into creative innovation inside a business. And so the idea here is to create an opportunity for us to really push on the new ROI, which is creating that space for people. So I see automation as a leverage tool to push forward. Now, if you were hoping for a job where you're just in there button pressing every day, you might be in trouble. But I don't know that many people who really want just a button pressing job, right? That there's human intuition, and I mean, we could go into the AI and all the different movies that have come out about how that's going to replace everything, but we're not there yet. We're not there. Yes, Will Smith and all of that stuff.
I can't wait for my robot maid to come in and deliver and do the chores around the house.
Yeah. So someday, well, I already have a robot made, Rolando. I have a vacuum that
Oh,
literally
yeah.
maps out my whole, it's mapped out my entire upstairs, and I can just click 3 buttons and it goes and vacuums the front room and then goes back and puts itself to sleep. So, I mean, I've got one of those for some
Okay.
of my chores.
I see. I see. I'm waiting for the one that does dishes and fixes up the house and the honey-do list too.
Did you see? Hey, so CES, like I saw, and maybe it was a joke, maybe it was April Fool's Day, but I saw like a Samsung robot that seemed to be standing in front of a dishwasher and like had like 3 arms and it was picking things out, and I was like,
Really?
oh, I want one of those.
It's coming. I'm sure you've seen I think it's Boston Scientific. They had something a couple of months ago where they had these robots dancing. So before, robots had a hard time walking. Now they can dance and jump on a box and do all kinds of stuff, and they can do it coordinated fashion. So it may not be too far away. I don't know what the price tag is going to be for that stuff, but it's certainly not that far away.
They're coming. They're coming along. Even things like the pizza delivery companies. They're programming delivery vehicles that have heaters and whatnot, and they're sending them on their way. They're testing them at some local college campuses out here. We're moving along quite well within the technology world for sure.
Well, it's a good jump off point. So technology as a means of enabling businesses to do their job better. And in some cases, that, like we saw, it may mean some robotic type of duties, but technology being automated, autonomous, in this case, we're talking about autonomous vehicles. But if we're to jump in on the technology piece, Will, and talk about what the landscape looks like. Let's start with that. What does the landscape for automation look like? And what does that mean from a practical standpoint for businesses and what they can do and bring it in to their operation so that they can create better efficiencies within their operation?
Well, I think the first thing I'd want to throw out there is that most of the business owners listening and professionals listening right now have tried automation before in some way, shape, or form, because there's a lot of people out there touting, we automate. Like it's a buzzword, right? And one of the things that I've discovered is that a lot of people have tried and failed, and therefore they don't continue forward with that. They're just like, you know what? That sucks. I'm not doing that anymore. And part of the reason is because they went in and they tried to automate something, and it ended up being a little more complicated than they anticipated, and they just walked away. Or they spent like 4 or 5 hours automating something that like only saved them 5 minutes, and they were like, flip, I'm not going down the automation rabbit hole again. And so one of the things that I see is that a lot of people have tried and failed, and they're like, the world's just not ready for automation yet, which is kind of an interesting take, because it's totally ready.
It is totally ready. I know that you and I have worked on projects in the past and still working on some right now where automation is at the heart of what we're doing. And I think maybe without giving the farm away with secrets, we could jump into a little bit on what are some of those things, those tangible things, because selling people on automation, like you said, can be a difficult and tricky thing because maybe they tried it in the past and it fell apart. But let's talk about some of the more tangible things that it's right within the grasp of most business owners or managers that they can bring to their organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first step is to adopt that culture of automation and to tell your employees, to tell your teammates that you're interested in automation and that you're willing to fund it. So if you're a business owner, you're listening to this podcast, you need to be advertising to the people inside your organization that automation is a priority, and it's not about automation that's going to replace jobs. It's about automation that's going to fuel that creative innovation. So that's the first step, is to kind of instill that idea that this is not something where we're going to replace butts and seats. We're going to enhance butts and seats and help people move forward at getting in there. So I tell people that there are a lot of different tools that you can use to find out what's there. One of the things I tell businesses is to use what I call 15-1-1-5. So 15-1-1-5 is where you take out a sticky note. So grab your sticky note, slap it on your desk, write 15-1-1-5 at the top. Then every time you do something that is more than 15 minutes a day, more than an hour a week, or more than an hour a month, then you need to write that down. So write down whatever that is. And you're looking for things that are happening in perpetuity. So I do a report for my boss, or I do a report once a week. It takes me more than an hour to do that report. You write down that report. The last part, 15.115, the last part of that is that you actually need to go down and do it 5 times manually. So when I write it out, just to be clear, I do 15-1-1-5, just to remember and kind of keep that separate, right? So if you do it 5 times manually, then you know what to do when it comes time to actually automate that. So people come to me all the time and they say, well, what should I automate? What should I look for first? And I tell them, look, everybody's business is so different. The first thing you need to do is start writing down these processes. And you may already have a lot of them written down somewhere, and you need to just go look and see what's really taking that time. And that's the low-hanging fruit. More than 15 minutes a day, more than an hour a week, or more than an hour a month.
Well, that's good, really good insight, Will. And when I hear you say that, I just wrote down a few things because it reminds me of our early days when we first started, about embracing the culture of automation. Because one of our very first projects was to take a process that took an employee nearly 15 to 20 hours a week, in just trying to gather details and put those all on spreadsheets. And once we got to the end, that particular employee was very resistant on the new process. But it turned out, after some time and having her use the new shorter process, that we went from about 15 hours to 15 minutes, she embraced it. But she was the I would say that the test case for us on our early days of automation. And now our internal folks, that's what they want. They want more tools to make their jobs a lot easier, to make their work life a lot easier, rather than just looking at spreadsheets and systems and copying and pasting all day long.
And Rolando, you were really good about that, because the moment we took that 15-hour process down to 15 minutes, it wasn't like, okay, now go look for another job. It was like, cool, now let's use that creative brain that you have to make real business decisions that can actually bring the business ROI. That's right. So you have to do that 3 or 4 times. People have to see people's jobs. So like, I mean, I went to work for an agency. This is actually how I got into automation. And I had no idea at the time when I started. I was doing 16 hours a week of copying and pasting to take all of these spreadsheets. I was taking Facebook data from over there and AdWords data from over there. And I was making this dashboard that I would send out as a PDF to the clients every week on how are your campaigns running, because I was working at an ad agency. And I was like, there has got to be a better way. Like, this is driving me crazy. Extreme laziness, extreme efficiency. I see them in similar form and fashion. Yes. I dived in there. Coin. Yeah, they're the same side of that coin, right? I dived in there, and I remember sitting down with my boss, and he was like, "Okay, this is a V lookup." And I was like, a V lookup? Okay. And he showed me how to connect this spreadsheet to that spreadsheet, so I didn't have to copy and paste manually. Like there was data that was coinciding in the two places, and my mind was blown. And that's what pushed me into the idea of, wait, if I can do that, what else could I do? And I taught myself to code, and I pushed into a whole bunch of other pieces, hired a whole bunch of other smart people to get in and do more automation. In those opportunities, you have to learn to go out and really reward employees who are looking to do that. You may already have an automation advocate working at your company, and they may have already automated a fair portion of their job. The dude deserves a bonus, or the girl deserves a bonus. Like you need to go find those individuals and reward that behavior. If you just pat them on the back, you're like, good job, and then like they just doubled their output by automating something, like give them a piece of that pie. The more you can do to incentivize that behavior of automating and removing those manual blocks, the better your company's going to be.
I agree. It's fabulous when things come together and the employees start embracing it. But you have to start at the top. If you don't have leadership behind it and a clear goal, and I think we had a clear goal when we started our very first project on what we wanted to accomplish. And that was to streamline what we were doing around our online efforts. And so, and how we can create some efficiency so we can churn things out faster. And I got to tell you, if you're watching this today and you have any doubt on how the power of automating a lot of the mundane tasks or things in the background, you really want to, like Will said, you want to sit down and take a look at where are your employees spending the greatest amount of time, where maybe their brain power is not being utilized. If it's utilizing their brain power is going towards, really, like you said, well, taking data from A, putting it to B, and then C, and then eventually getting to the decision-making process from that data. They're spending way too much time on process, and there are ways to shortcut that.
Absolutely. And it's important that you recognize that, as you're picking apart those processes, that it goes there. So if you're listening right now and you're thinking, oh my gosh, guys, just give me some examples. The reason we are pushing so hard on the culture part of this and the adoption is because we've seen a ton of companies. I mean, this is 5 years that I've been doing this. We've seen a ton of companies go into this and then just fail miserably because they don't embrace the culture part of it. Automation is more of a mindset than it is a suite of tools. But with that said, let's get into some nitty gritty and let's talk about that.
All right.
I just want to add, improving the efficiencies, it's making a lot of people's experiences more positive. I like what you're saying about the culture. When you're running more smooth and you're removing frustration from people, you're not only making their lives better, but you're improving that customer experience. You're getting them, the people that are paying you, you're making their lives faster and easier at the same time. They know when their products are shipping, for example, just bet more, receiving product on time, whatever it might be. But it's a win-win-win on all sides. And I find it interesting that you're talking about the culture piece, because we see it here internally. Our folks are happy because our customers are happy. You've removed a ton of frustration. So it's a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. In terms of digging in there. So let's say that you've done that 15115 process and you've identified 3 or 4 topics that you're like, oh my gosh, these are automatable. And maybe you're not saying these are automatable. Let's say that you're saying these need to be automated, but I don't know if they're automatable. The way that you find out whether or not they're automatable is you begin to do some research around what's possible. Okay. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to go out and you are going to pick apart the different pieces of what's there. And you're going to ask 4 questions about each one of those processes. You're going to ask, where's the data now? Where does the data need to go? What needs to happen to the data in between? And what triggered that whole process to start? Okay, so I'm going to go through those one more time. Where's the data now? Where does it need to go? What happened to it in between? And what triggered that process to start? And if you ask yourself those questions and you do yourself a write-up, that's going to give you the guts of what it really means to go around that. You're starting with the origin, you're going to the destination, what happens in between, and how do we begin there? So where's the data now? Where does it need to go? What happens in between? And finally, what triggered the process to start? So as you pick apart where that goes, the moment you have that all written up, here's my favorite part. You're ready to go post on Upwork or Fiverr and get some help. Okay. You will find a 20 to 50% decrease in the amount of cost associated with a project on Upwork, Fiverr, or whichever freelancer you're working with, if you answer those questions succinctly and do it well. So the tool I just gave you is actually a money-saving tool.
I want to say that is a pro tip. Let's rewind that part about Fiverr. Ori, throw up a pro tip for Will. All right, Will. Tip for people.
Pro tip.
Woo! All right.
Pro tip. So pro tip, where's the data now? Where does it need to go? What triggered the process to start? And what happens to data in between? I just mix up the order there. But you put that up in your Fiverr or Upwork listing when you're asking for help automating, and you will save 20 to 50% on that overall bid. Ooh. Because the contractor understands now what you actually want to get done versus you walk up and say, hey, I got this spreadsheet and I want to automate it.
Right.
The guy's like, that'll be $1,000 because I have no idea what, or that'll be $100,000 because I have no idea what you really want.
Well, let's talk about, let's say, a real life example. Will, a lot of folks use an application like Salesforce, right? Salesforce is a warehouse of data for many parts of the organization: accounting, sales, customer support. And when I'm talking to other organizations, they have a hard time sometimes with, and Salesforce is a great tool, but they may want to move data from Salesforce and maybe put it into a spreadsheet in a certain format. Let's just say a report of some sort. And it doesn't look, and there may be different bits of it. How does an organization then get started? Now they know the process, right? You're giving them the ABCs. This is what you want to look for, and they say, "Yep, great, Will. We use Salesforce for warehousing all of our data, and we have spreadsheets and Google and all these other things as well. How can we take some of this data, massage it, and put it over here? Because those maybe spreadsheets don't talk to the Salesforce data management part. So how can we move it so it's in a spreadsheet format that maybe a particular manager or business owner needs it?"
So what I would say then is so let's say that you're writing it down and you're like, oh, I'm just not sure that I need to go get some professional help yet. Like, let's see if there's an option out there for me. Answer the question, where's the data now? Answer the question, where does the data need to go? And go throw that in Google. People are like, what, really, Will? You're going to give me a Google tip? I'm dead serious. You write in like, okay, like I got to go take that Salesforce data and go put it into a Google spreadsheet. Type in Salesforce to Google Sheets. You will be shocked at how many automations there are already out there that exist that you don't even need to go create, that are just on the front page of Google.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, already exists. Okay. So super important for you to recognize that find the solutions that already exist. And then I gave you the pro tip on how to go ask for some professional help. And obviously DataAutomation.com. You can ask us for help as well if you want, but you don't need to come to us. The automation pie is so large. There is so much out there that needs to be automated. It's ridiculous. So yeah, no, super, super important that you ask those questions. And I actually go through and first I ask Google. If Google doesn't give me something, I go ask Salesforce support. And then I go ask Google Sheets support. Like I go find the forums and I ask those support teams. Then I go to my mastermind. And I'm like, hey, has anybody done this? And I remember, where's the data now? Where does it need to go? I use those same things to go ask my mastermind. And then I keep going down and eventually I'll go ask for some professional help if I can't figure it out on my own. But there's a series of just surfacing what you're looking for that you're going to find a lot of automation opportunity just by doing that.
Well, Will, I also want to ask you, because people want to know if they get this implemented. You know, I mentioned the project that we started early on about saving 15 hours, virtually 15 hours on this particular employee, and it's in perpetuity. We keep saving money and using them in another fashion for them to work because this employee was very productive, but just the tasks took too long. What can organizations, business owners look forward to at the end of the process? When can they expect a return on investment? Because let's say, like you said, okay, the low hanging fruit is, okay, I want to do something in spreadsheets. Maybe I find it in Google, maybe I find it YouTube, but now let's move upward, up the funnel here, up the food chain, where you have companies that have more complex needs. Because if they're going to invest, I don't know, I'm just throwing numbers, whether it's $1,000 at the solution, 10,000 or 100,000, the very first question I know I'm asked is, when am I going to get a return on investment?
Yeah, and the way that you answer the question about return on investment is you do the math. So a hidden value. So here's another pro tip.
Okay, hold on.
Value.
Let's get Ori to throw a pro tip. Ori.
So, bing. The hidden value inside automation is when you go in and you start to pick apart what you're actually going to gain as far as that ROI. And everybody goes back and says, okay, well, how much am I paying the guy an hour? Or how much am I paying myself an hour? How much time am I saving? Let's talk about that 52 weeks a year. The hidden value is, okay, now what are you doing now that that's no longer on your plate? People don't think about that often. They don't say, okay, well, what would you do if I gave you, so Rolando, like we could sit down and we can talk about your business. If I gave you an extra 10 hours a week, what could you do to your bottom line?
I got several things. Yeah, but 10 hours a
Yeah.
week, boy, that's some extra time that I didn't have before.
And
Tell me how.
well, that extra time begins to multiply, right? If you gave me 10 extra hours a week to work on data automation's bottom line, I could probably 30 or 40 or 50% the size of the business.
Yeah.
And so now I can take that 10 hours a week and I know what I'm paying myself and I can come up with that equation. And then I look at that 10 to 30%, 50% increase in my business. And now I've got some real budget to go around and help figure out what it is. So as long as what I invest is not only the time savings, but also the multiplier effect of that time, that's the hidden value. A lot of people are like, well, it only takes me an hour a day, or it only takes me an hour a month to do that. So it's not that big a deal. What would you do with that hour? You're not going to go take a nap. I mean, maybe you are, maybe your business is to that point, but you're not going to go take a nap. So it's a good idea for you to really understand where this goes and where some real opportunity is.
And I agree, because it's incremental in terms of the number of hours. And once you start one project, you and I are working on several other ones where you're like, okay, where else can we save? Because you do invest. There's no doubt about it, especially as the project gets more complex. When you're integrating multiple systems, you want A, B, and C to all talk to each other and then spit out D as a result. And we have several of those going on right now with you. And the investment, and for us, a lot of them have paid dividends within the first few weeks because we could use the same amount of labor force for more tasks, essentially letting the computers and machines. And we saw that during COVID. Our business just went like this, but we didn't have to increase headcount because we were able to scale up with automation. And that allowed us to keep our controls under cost while allowing our business to grow. And I think as things get more ramped up with more people returning to office, I think more and more businesses are asking themselves this question, like, how do I grow and keep scaling up, whether you're large or a medium or even a small business, but maintaining your costs under control? And I think automation plays a key role in that.
Yeah, it's about, so one of the things that's interesting about handing a task over to a computer versus leaving it in the hands of an employee is that computer has the ability to understand just the set of parameters that it has. It doesn't have that human intuition, but it's also completely scalable. I mean, you literally for pennies can build thousands and thousands of workers that can go out and do whatever it was that was on a human's plate. And so there's a scalability to it, and it's going to force you to really think about your business. So let me throw out a couple of quick tips. So there are tools that every single business owner slash employee slash professional should be using, you should have installed. And this is one of the least installed things that I see people have on their computers every single day that they should have installed. That's going to save them probably upwards of 10 to 15 minutes a week, if not 10 to 15 minutes a day. And so these tools, I'm going to give you a couple of tools that I install and that I use for time savings and communication that just really go all out in terms of the opportunity.
Okay, awesome. I love it. And so, are we going to have those tools? Maybe we can throw those up back in the description, and also in once we finish the broadcast, we'll make sure folks have those. So if you're watching us on the playback, they'll be in the description, so you can get to some of these tools as well, and take advantage of some of the things that you could do that are quite low cost. Will, right?
Yeah, some of them are free. So the number one tool that I see people not installing, and this is just for business professionals in general, is what's called a clipboard manager. Okay, so a clipboard manager is a tool that you put onto your desktop or Mac or PC, and every time you copy something, so let's say that I'm copying a phone number or an order number or an email address or a series of email addresses, what it does, it actually goes in and it will get for you all of that information. So let's say that you copied an email address, but you know that you've copied 3 or 4 things since then. quick keyboard shortcut, it'll pull up a list of the last 500 things you've copied, and you can search for that email address. So instead of you having to be like, oh, wait, okay, to go get that email address, I got to go back into my email and I got to search for whoever sent that to me. And then I got to copy and paste that email address. Then I go back to the original email that I was writing and I paste it. Instead of all of that, you literally quick keyboard shortcut, search for that email address. You've got it right there in your clipboard and away you go. Works really well for passwords, all of that kind of stuff where you've had to copy it. So instead of me having to remember where I copied and pasted that from, I've got this trail of the last 500 things that I've copied. I'm ready. So let's say that you're typing an email and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm writing the same paragraph to this guy that I wrote to the other guy, but I didn't yet store it inside the macros, inside the ticket system you're using. But I did copy and paste it. Oh, cool. So you just search for it, paste it, boom, you're good to go. So Clipboard Manager is the number one tool. I recommend Clip on Windows. That's the one that I like there. And Copy Clip is the one that I like for Mac. And those are both free to use tools that are available for both Windows and Mac. So number one tool that I would recommend everybody stop. And now here's the funny part. This tool is it seems so simple and you're like, oh, it's not really saving me that much time. Like it is so important that you sit down and you actually go in and look at it. Like stop right now, go download it, install it. You'll be shocked at how much time it saves you.
Oh, that's amazing.
Go
Clipboard
ahead, Dave.
Manager. Good tip.
Clipboard Manager. Okay. Another tip that I love doing. How many of you, by raise of hands, I kind of wish there was like this massive audience because it would be like everybody would be shouting from the rooftops when I say this. But how many of you have ever had a bug inside some software that you were using where it didn't do what it was supposed to do? Everybody's like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's been me. How much time did you waste trying to get around that bug? How much time did you waste typing up the email? If the bug's important enough to you, how much time did you waste typing up that really long email describing what was there to send it in? Or maybe you just skipped over it. You're like, you know what? I'm not typing up that email. Nobody ever fixes them. It's just annoying. Then the next time you see that bug again, nobody else has reported it. Guess what? It's wasting you time again. The tool I'm going to teach you about now is called Loom or Screencastify. Okay. Loom or Screencastify. There are 3 questions you need to answer every time you find a bug inside a piece of software that you're using. Ask yourself, what did I expect to happen? What did happen? And how do I recreate that? If you answer those 3 questions verbally in a Loom or Screencastify and you send that into the support team over there, they're going to give you the royal treatment. Because everybody and their dog, when they report a bug in a piece of software, they report and they say, oh, well, so this page is broken. And the person on the other end of that support ticket is like, what do you mean it's broken? Like that could mean any one of 5,000 things. Right. So get your bugs in your applications fixed by using something like Screencastify or Loom and going that. So that's the second one that I would recommend. This is also beautiful for, let's say that you're developing a website or a brochure, or you've got, this new sales tactic or whatever else it is. Open up the email that the person just sent you, record your screen, and just talk through the bullet points. I can literally spew out in a 5-minute quick Loom or Screencastify video. That's how they give you a limit on the Screencastify for 5 minutes for free. I can create a 6 or 7 pages worth of email that is 10 times more clear than you can. I can do it in 5 minutes. It would take you 3 or 4 hours to write the same email and make it clear. Because I can show my screen, I can show the images, I can draw on the screen while I'm going at it. Just the level of communication goes up dramatically. And it's almost as if you had a video call. Like, so instead of that meeting, instead of that 15 to 30 minute meeting where you share your screen, stop, don't go bug them. Open up Screencastify or Loom, record your screen and send it back over. You'll be shocked at how much the decrease in the number of back and forth that you've got.
No, I agree with us. We use Loom here internally, and we've used that internally for internal purposes and external purposes. And I've found multiple times when going back and forth with vendors or suppliers or other folks that we work with outside the organization, one Loom takes care of 10 emails that you easily go back and forth, and it's a huge time saver. So if you're not comfortable with being on camera, you don't have to. They have a camera feature where you can be on camera as well as your screen, or you can have it just screen only, and and they would just listen to your voice.
And
So
Rolando,
Loom,
before
ahead,
we
Dave.
started using Loom, we do a copy and paste, we do screenshots, we draw things with a red circle and a highlighter and make notes. And yeah, I mean, well, you're absolutely right. It can easily save you 3 pages of email, which no one would read anyways. And it would still end up creating the need for a conference call or a phone call or something like that. So,
well, Dave, imagine if I had a problem with a piece of software that you wrote. Imagine if I could invite you to sit next to me for 5 minutes while I showed you what was wrong. It's the same dang thing. Like I literally am inviting the developer who made the product to sit next to me at my computer and just listen to me while I explain exactly what was wrong. Like it's just unreal that the amount of communication that Screencastify or Loom will eliminate for your business.
Yeah, and I think they appreciate that just as much because they're able to get to the root of the problem. They want to fix their product, right? So being able to do that, huge time saver.
Just remember to tell them how to recreate the problem. That's the biggest one. If you tell them, hey, here's what's broken, it's kind of hard not to show them that. That's one of the reasons why Loom is nice, because you have to show them what page you're on in order to show them it's broken. But yeah, get into like, how did you get here? Right. That's the big piece for bug communication.
Awesome. I loved all those tips. And Will, if folks want to maybe use your services, follow you, how can they do that right now?
Yeah, absolutely. The best place to catch me is on LinkedIn. If you just search for Will Christensen Data Automation, I'll come right up to the top. And if you'll make a connection request, get in there. We'll connect, and I'm happy to answer questions. We do free 30-minute systems design calls where we'll jump in and help people kind of look at different pieces of it. We're doing our own podcast as well, where we release a lot of tips and tricks all over the place. So obviously you can find us at DataAutomation.com as well. But more than happy to support anyone in their automation journey, because it is a journey and it is difficult. But it's well worth it. The dividends pay out big time in the end.
I love it. Agreed. I mean, there's, we use your services. We can vouch for them. We're continuing to do projects. So that should say a lot. And they have really helped a tremendous amount, especially in the past 16 months with COVID. We had no idea what was waiting for us in both a good and a bad way. And for us, it was great to have a lot of things automated because, people were not in the office, or where some people got sick, and, having systems running in the background, doing a lot of this work, whether you're there or not, really helped out, especially because let's say things hit the fan. And they hit the fan a lot, right, Dave? We had a lot of moments.
We were very confident that we were going to be able to wipe that fan clean, and it wasn't that bad. It wasn't bad. I'll tell you, Will, the automation processes that we have with Global Tech has instilled a ton of confidence, and myself and my team here, always very impressed by the work that you and Rolando accomplished together.
Well, honestly, it's been a pleasure working with Global Tech. We love working with you guys in general, and I mean it's just fascinating to see if you prepare yourself. And Rolando would be the first to tell you that it's not an inexpensive process, right? And I think it's important that people recognize that you have to invest in it. That's why I talk about that hidden value of automation. The hidden value for the Global Tech team was when COVID hit and when, things just skyrocketed, and you guys had that opportunity to just capture the demand that was associated with what was there because you'd invested already in the process to go there. So don't, I guess if the moral of the story is don't hesitate, don't wait, begin your automation journey now, because it's kind of like a 401k, right? The sooner you start, the more you get out of it. It's you gotta jump in now.
I agreed. Well said. Is there I'm going to give any other last tip or anything else?
Honestly, if I were to throw out one last thing to the individuals that were here, it would be stay curious. Um, you would be shocked at what's automatable. People come to me all the time. Rolando and he stopped asking me, like, is this automatable? He just started throwing stuff at me. He's like, let's automate this, Will. And so that the level of confidence that he now has in our ability. But I remember at the beginning where he'd bring me something and he'd be like, are you sure we can automate that? And I was like, we'll have to put a spreadsheet in the middle of it and have a human being look at that part of it, because a computer's never going to figure that part out. But this part, and this part, 80% of the process was totally automatable. So stay curious. That would be my last tip for people about automation.
You're right, Will. Staying curious, because things come up, things change, your competitors change, the environment changes like COVID, and it changes how you work. But having the ability to have things running in the background allowed us to really just be much smoother than I can only imagine those folks who work in organizations that did not have a lot of things automated, and people just were not able to get that work done. It had to be a nightmare situation, right?
They weren't in the same building anymore, so they had no idea how to walk over to somebody's desk and get the paperwork pushed around. Yeah, no, it was a whole new world. I'm excited. I think the world's gone to a better place. I know there's been a lot of casualty and loss in this, but I think that it's been a powerful thing overall to push society and the world forward in the realm of technology, and I think we're going to be better for it. I think we fast forwarded some of our technological advances by dealing with the COVID, and it's been cool to see the human race adapt.
Okay.
Well said.
Well said, Will. And I want to let our folks know that are watching us today that we do have more. We want to go to the end screen, Ori? And yeah, well, there we go. Okay, we'll invite you to like and subscribe. Follow us. We have a community growing of like-minded individuals, business owners, and others who want to get information on how to grow their business, how to scale their business, how to improve processes. And if you want that, go ahead, let us know by subscribing, because we also release other nuggets throughout the week. And you don't want to miss out on that, Dave, right?
That's right. And hey, listen, talk about not wanting to miss out. We're going to quickly go back to our question of the week. And this was, I think his name was Charlie, who was asking this question. And the question was related around wireless range and Bluetooth headsets. So here's the question again. He's using a Bluetooth headset. He uses a Bluetooth dongle with his laptop, which is always smart, but he's not getting that wireless range. How can he improve it? So listen, Bluetooth is a signal. It's transmitted through an antenna. The dongle is an antenna. And usually when we're putting these in, they're sideways. We have multiple USB ports. You can always try to put it in a different USB port. Try to not obstruct it. The key is we're trying to look for a line of sight from the dongle to the headset. So you might be able to find success by increasing your range by putting that dongle into another USB port. Again, if there's anything obstructing the field of sight, the line of sight from the headset down, move that. But here at Global Tech, we have a new product that we're launching. We're taking pre-orders on this now. And this is called what are we calling this, Rolando? This is the Blue
Beacon Range Extender.
The Blue Beacon Range Extender. You know, the team has been working on this product for quite a long time.
Yeah, over a year.
Rolando, you might have one.
I can actually reach over here. I actually use it. It's over here on the side. Let me know if we can get it in. There we go. So you can see I've got a dongle already connected to it. So I use it with my Bluetooth headset that I've used with my computer and my mobile phone. Thanks, Ori, for the studio shot there. I use that. It sits on my monitor, so now I get much better range. And you know, David, Dave, I've got another David in my head. The other thing that I've found is that I can go over to my kitchen and use my headset in a much longer range than I used to. I couldn't go in the kitchen and stay on a conference call and go grab a bite to eat. It always dropped.
Right.
And it's something else I'd learned just the other day. Like, I just learned something new, that on any computer that has a USB 3.0 port, many of those computers' ports are unshielded and create interference with Bluetooth signals. Turns out that USB 3.0 uses the same frequency as Bluetooth. So a lot of USB ports will cause that are 3.0 that are unshielded will cause a Bluetooth device to drop, skip. It will cause delays in the audio and all kinds of stuff. So, and we, by the way, we do have more helpful tips on this, on Bluetooth, on connectivity, as well as business topics. And do we have that ready, Ori? Okay. So, all right.
So we'll have-
all
yep.
of that, will be. Go ahead, Dave.
Sorry, Rolando. Yep. So all of that will be put in the description below. We are taking pre-orders for the cables. This will be below. And again, Rolando, this is why we want the folks to like, subscribe, and enable notifications, because these are the sort of nuggets that you're going to get from us that are playing with the technology every single day.
That's right. That's right. Well, so thank you, Will. Thanks for coming on today. We appreciate you sharing with our audience valuable information, and get a hold of Will if you're looking to automate your processes.
Glad to be here. Thanks, guys.
Excellent. Thanks,
All
Will.
right. Now, all right. So for those that have stuck around to the end, I want to invite you, and where am I pointing to? This is new for us. I'm going to invite you over here. I'm going to invite you to continue getting our wonderful content and business topics and nuggets. You'll see it right here on your screen where we've got more for you. So I invite you to check out those other helpful tips to allow you to grow your business and take it to the next level. All right. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.